माननीय सभासदों, माननीय सभापति महोदया जी,
नियम 377 के अधीन सभा पटल पर रखे जाने वाले मामलों के संबंध में अध्यक्ष पीठ द्वारा की जाने वाली घोषणा। जिन माननीय सदस्यों को आज नियम 377 के अधीन मामलों को उठाने की अनुमति प्रदान की गई है, वे अपना मामलों के अनुमोदित पाठ को तुरंत व्यक्तिगत रूप से सभा पटल पर रखें। आइटम नंबर 19 तेल क्षेत्र विनिमय तथा विकास संशोधन विधेयक 2024। माननीय मंत्री जी।
Madam, with your permission, I rise to move that the Oil Fields Regulation and Development Amendment Bill 2024, further to amend the Oil Fields Regulation and Development Act 1948 as passed by the Rajya Sabha, be taken into consideration. Only if she gives me that.
जी जी बोलिए।
Madam, in the year 2014, when the Honorable Prime Minister assumed responsibility, between then and now, we have moved from being the 11th or 10th largest economy in the world to being the 5th largest, and we are very shortly going to be the 4th largest, and if the assessment of the International Monetary Fund is to be believed, we will be the 3rd largest economy by 2027. Economic growth and the size of GDP, as my friends on all sides of the House will agree, is heavily dependent on the utilization of energy. In fact, when you look at any energy, madam, any economy, and you look at the energy consumption, a reasonably good indicator of economic performance comes from the utilization of energy. Today, we are currently consuming 5.5 million barrels of crude oil in a day. When I had the privilege of being associated with this ministry, madam, 3.5 years ago, we were consuming 5 million. If we continue to grow at 6.5%, 7% rate of growth, it is only a matter of time that we will be consuming 6.5, and 7 million barrels of crude oil in a day. Madam, our journey to become a Viksit Bharat by 2047 or to become a $30 to $40 trillion economy by 2040 or thereabouts will require large amounts of energy in all forms. Today, we are in the happy situation of saying that out of the 3.5 million square kilometers of sedimentary basin that we have, 1 million square kilometers of that sedimentary basin was a no-go area. In other words, no prospecting could be done there. And as a result, our import dependence, both in terms of crude oil and natural gas, was on the rise. Today, I'm very happy to share with this House that 76% of all the prospecting and exploration that is being done in our sedimentary basin is being done in areas which have been freed up after 2014. Wow. In fact, between the years 2006 and 16, which we often in our trade call the dull decade, very little work was done. And madam, oil and gas is a sector which is heavily capital intensive, which has long gestation periods, and any decision that you take today or the government of the day takes today will begin to show results only 3, 5 or even 7 years later. I'm very happy to report that it is a result of various measures that we have undertaken, and I shall list a few of them. In 2016, we moved from production sharing arrangements to revenue sharing arrangements. And when we were in 2014, out of the 3.5 million square kilometers of sedimentary basin, the amount being used was exploited was only 6%. We have to take that to 15%. In spite of our efforts, we have only been able to raise it from 6 to 10%, but that's a major jump. Therefore, in the coming time, we will have to do more, and that is the starting point of my presentation on why this piece of legislation passed by the Rajya Sabha is coming before this August House today, Madam. Madam, India's hydrocarbon resource potential is immense. We have something like 42 billion tons of oil and oil equivalent of gas, which remains to be tapped. This is, by any yardstick, a very resource-rich Bharat. But prospecting and looking for oil and gas is an expensive business. Any well which is dug onshore costs something like $3 to $4 million per well, which under today's exchange rate comes to 33 to 35 crore rupees. And if the drilling is offshore, the cost is even higher. It comes to $100 million. Now, all the resources that we have at our disposal, the private sector, the state oil marketing companies and the government, we don't have the resources. And typically in the exploration and production sector, Madam, let me give you the case of Guyana. They dug 16 wells and they did not find oil and gas. It is not that 17th well that they found or they struck gold, as it were. I am very confident that with the efforts that we are making now and with the ecosystem which will come into being as a result of the legislation which is before this August House today, we will find many Guyanas in the Andaman Sea. And as we move forward, our requirements, not only for our domestic consumption, we are both producers, we are consumers, we are importers, we are also exporters. India is today occupying a very important place in the global energy market on all fronts. Madam, we moved in 2016 from a production sharing to a revenue sharing agreement. In 2018, the government reformed policies to promote coal bed, methane and enhanced oil and gas recovery methods. We also allowed CBM operations by coal miners. In 2022, we opened up 99% of the no-go areas, as I mentioned, out of the 3.5 million square kilometers, 1 million square kilometers, which was a no-go area, has been opened up. And Madam, I'm very happy to inform this House through you that when we had the 9th round of open acreage licensing policy, 38% of the bids which were received were part of this 1 million square kilometers of no-go area. Madam, the E&P, exploration and production industry, is blind without seismic data. To reduce the fear of investment becoming a sunk cost on account of no prospective discovery, we gave impetus to the acquisition of quality geological and geoscientific data by launching various programs such as National Seismic Program, Airborne Gravity and Geomagnetic Survey, Exclusive Economic Zone Survey, setting up of National Data Repository and hydrocarbon resources. I'm very happy to inform you that government has approved the acquisition of additional 2D seismic data of 20,000 LKM on land and 30,000 LKM in offshore. There are various other activities which we have undertaken to make the Indian market, Indian exploration space more attractive. And I'm confident that companies like Exxon, BP, Chevron, Total, ENI, which had left India, they are not only showing interest in coming back, many of them have already started partnering our OMCs, as in the rejuvenation of Bombay High, seismic survey by a Brazilian company, Petrobras, with Oil India in the Andaman Sea, and so on and so forth. We have already increased the explored area, as I mentioned, from 6% to 10% of the sedimentary basin, but we are very confident that with the steps in hand, we will take it to 15% of the sedimentary basin. In addition, Bombay High Basin, through exploratory efforts, has more than doubled between 2014-24 as compared to 2004 and 14. We are also re-engaging with international oil and gas giants to fully help us and jointly explore our E&P. We have successfully awarded 144 blocks to competitive bidding process covering 2.5 lakh square kilometers and secured commitment investment of $3.37 billion under OALP from round 1 to 8. Of these, 131 blocks are under active exploration and some discoveries have been made. Madam, I will fast forward. Why are we bringing this bill? For a number of reasons. We used to have, Madam, an original law which was enacted in 1948. It was a common law to cover both mining, quarrying, and petroleum leases or mineral oil. Then in 1957, a separate law for the mines and mineral sector was enacted, namely the Mines and Minerals Development and Regulation Act 1957. While the parent legislation was rechristened the Oilfields Regulation and Development Act 1948, all the terminologies within the Act continue to remain the same, and we are seeking to change that today. We are also introducing a single permit system for all types of mineral oil exploration, be it exploration, development, or production of conventional oil and gas, or unconventional hydrocarbons like shale gas, tight oil, or tight gas. The bill also seeks to clarify the meaning of the term mineral oils, particularly in its modern context, so as to promote exploration and production of new fuel options like shale gas, shale oil, coal-based methane, natural gas, gas hydrates. The bill also seeks to facilitate development of comprehensive energy projects and new technologies such as carbon capture utilization and sequestration, CCUS, green hydrogen, etc., all of which will help us achieve net zero status by 2070. The bill proposes a new framework for sharing of resources and infrastructure between different operators to improve viability of oil blocks. Madam, the oil bill also aims to resolve one of the biggest grievances of global oil companies interested in investing in India by providing stability in operations, both in terms of tenure of the lease and condition. It is my firm belief, based on my experience for the last 3.5 years, Madam, that stability and predictability for a foreign investor where large amounts of investment are required in the infrastructure sector are absolutely crucial, and this bill seeks to do that. We also propose to substitute an acrimonious mode of dispute resolution with fast and efficient alternate dispute resolution mechanism which will ensure disputes can be resolved in a timely, fair and cost-effective manner. There were also some punitive provisions such as a fine of 1,000 rupees which made the provisions almost meaningless. We are substituting that by 25 lakhs rupees up to 10 lakhs per day for continuing infraction. The bill will, in summary, Madam, add to ease of doing business and make India an attractive destination. I want to conclude, Madam, by also a brief outlining, because I know many of my dear friends and members in the opposition will take the floor, to say what the bill does not do and will not do. The bill does not alter the rights of states. For on-land areas, the states will continue to give petroleum leases and receive royalties as before. That is the situation now. That is the situation which will continue. The bill does not alter the existing level playing field and offers no preference to either private or public sector. In fact, I heard some comments originally, but when I spoke in the Rajya Sabha and the bill was passed there, I think that point has not been repeated because it is amply clear within the text of the legislation and otherwise. Removal of criminal punishment would encourage infraction. This is a civil and commercial legislation. Criminal matters will continue to be tried under the relevant criminal laws. And to deter infractions, we have increased the penalties and provided for their expeditious adjudication. The bill grants no exemptions from the need for compliance with environmental standards. Additionally, our contracts mandate it and also provide for site restoration. The bill also provides for decarbonization and development of comprehensive energy projects. Madam, insofar as the fate of existing contracts is concerned, existing leases and licenses will continue to be valid for their respective tenures, subject to terms and conditions governing the grant of such leases and licenses as provided in the savings clause of the bill. I hope this will reassure my colleagues from different parts of the House. There is no change in the rights of the states, which they will continue to enjoy these rights, and there is no attempt or even thinking of curtailing those rights. Madam, with these words, I will conclude my presentation. I look forward to the participation of my colleagues in the House, and it would be a privilege and honor for me to respond to those observations. I thank you, Madam.
माननीय सदस्य श्री मनीष तिवारी जी।